Okay, so Darren, there's been a couple things. We've been in a really hot market for quite a while now. You need to be really competitive with your offers, and even then, it just seems to be really hard to get an offer accepted now.
Yeah.
So, what are a couple things? I know we've been talking about a couple things about how to make our buyers' offers stand out a little bit more. And some things, we try to, what are called like appraisal gaps. We try to fill that a little bit. Can you explain a little bit more about how do you position yourself to do that and what that even means?
Sure. Yeah. So first, an appraisal gap is, let's say, for example, you have a property that's listed for 300,000 and you submit an offer for $320,000 and they accept your offer and we order an appraisal and that appraisal comes back at 315. But you had agreed to pay $320 for the property. The lender, us as a lender, we're only going to finance for loan to value based on the value of the property of the $315, even though you agreed to pay $320. So that $5,000 difference between the $315 and the $320 is what we call an appraisal gap.
Yeah.
So what I'm kind of seeing a lot of the time with clients, and especially more so in the past couple months, is if you're coming in with 20% down, why not make the loan with 5% down? That way you save some of your extra cash for an appraisal gap, just in case, and you can make your offer a little more competitive that way, and stand out amongst all the other buyers that are submitting these offers.
Yeah, because in the typical market that we're seeing, even a balanced market or a buyer's market or something, you say that the appraisal comes in low at 315, you offered 320. Sometimes most buyers would just say, well, my lender says he can only lend up to 315. That's what the appraised value is. Therefore, I'm going to drop my offer to 315, and you're just going to have to take the 315. And they kind of try to, get the seller, renegotiate in the middle of escrow. And most sellers, they don't want to have to go through a whole new escrow and a whole new all that stuff. So, a lot of times they were just conceding and saying, okay, fine, we'll have to do that.
Right.
But, in such a hot market, they know if they just took that out of escrow and slapped it back in the market, they'll get someone with more cash.
They'll get 320.
Yeah, they'll actually get 320.
Right.
So with that appraisal gap, you're basically just guaranteeing the seller. You're giving him more confidence to pick you to say, listen, it doesn't matter what this thing appraises at.
I'm paying $320.
I'm going to pay $320. Some people were even waiving appraisals, like just saying you still need the appraisal for the loan, but they were saying, regardless of whatever the appraisal comes in at, I'm going to pay this, and I'll just pay cash out of pocket, whatever.
As opposed to saying I'm going to guarantee $10,000 above appraisal. Some people, I think what you were saying is they're not putting any dollar amount. They're just whatever that appraisal comes in at. I'm paying this sales price. And so that's why sometimes it's not as important to come in with 20% down payment for the loan, especially if you need a little extra cash to help cover for that appraisal gap.
Yeah, because the 20% doesn't really affect the seller that much. If you put 5% versus 20% down, most of the sellers would rather have someone that's going to guarantee $20,000 over the appraisal as opposed to not guarantee, but they have a higher down payment. That doesn't really mean as much,
Right.
So
exactly.
But yeah, so that, and we saw, especially when it was really, really, really hot, we'd see waiving of appraisal. You have to just be careful. That's another reason you got to talk to your lenders, because you got to be careful about how much can you actually guarantee versus how much are you overstepping.
Right.
And talking to an agent's really good too to find out what is that house actually worth, because an agent should be able to get you in a pretty tight ballpark to let you know, hey, even though you offer 320, this thing might only appraise for 310 or 315. So you can kind of have an awareness. If it's like worth 280, your agent should be telling you you're offering 40,000 over what it's actually worth. That'll really help there. Your lender's going to be able to tell you how much you can actually guarantee.
Exactly.
And try and estimate all those costs. And then we were talking about a second super helpful tip that you do. Not every lender does, and I know that from working with them. But
yeah. So one of the things that I do, and especially being here local in Bakersfield, I like to pick up the phone when my buyer submits an offer on a property, and I call that listing agent and I introduce myself. And a lot of the time they know who I am. But I do let them know that, my buyer, such and such buyer, just submitted an offer on your property. I just want to let you know that, I'm handling the loan and everything's going to be okay, and they're, well qualified. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to pick up the phone and give me a call. And that really, me advocating for my buyer like that really bodes well with the listing agent, especially when they're presenting those offers to their seller. They're, may have two of the same offers. One was from me that picked up the phone and called them, and one might be from maybe an out-of-town lender, or just a lender that just didn't opt to give them a call. And that peace of mind really goes a long way in getting your offer accepted. That's why it's very important to pick the right lender. Aside from just the rate and the payment's going to be around the same with every lender. The rate might be off by an 1/8 or 1/4% with depending on the lender, but that's not all that goes into a loan. Getting closed on time, clean approval, communication, those things are what really matters when going to get a mortgage loan.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just had one not like a few weeks ago or something like that, and we were putting in an offer for our buyers, and listing agent like Saturday night, was just like, they were like, oh my goodness, like I need to call the lender because I don't, I needed, for whatever reason, it was just like, I need to double check this, triple check this thing for my sellers. Having a good lender that's going to actually answer the phone when a listing agent calls, that's going to bode really well for you as a buyer, because they're going to say, because they're not working with the buyer, like the listing agent and escrow, all these people, they're not working with the buyers themselves. They're working with the buyer's agent on the other side. They're working with the lender. They want to know these guys know what they're talking about. They want to know that they did their paperwork, and they want to know at the end of the day, how strong is this offer? Did this guy put everything in? And if you have a lender that is on top of it enough to actually go talk to the listing agent, proactively too, then that's going to set aside any it's going to give the listing agent a lot of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do a lot up front prior to even issuing that pre-qualification. I order a verification of employment. I check any large deposits and all of that stuff that goes into pre-qualifying a buyer for a loan. That way, when you get that pre-qualification in hand, it's ironclad, and it's going to the closing table, and nothing is going to pop up that we didn't see.
Picking the right lender in and of itself is a strategy to make your offer a lot stronger. It's just a buyer strategy to help you out in a really, really hot market like this.